The cold, metallic click of the deadbolt was the only goodbye I received. It was a sound sharper than my son's final cutting words, more definitive than the disdain in his wife's eyes. It was the sound of my life being locked out, left on the cracked concrete of a porch I had helped paint. My luggage, 2 worn suitcases and a canvas bag holding my knitting, sat beside me like orphaned companions. The door to the house my savings had secured, the house where I'd nursed their baby girl through fevers while they slept, remained shut. Inside, they were likely celebrating. Outside, in the humid Ohio air, I was a ghost. This final brutal act had begun 2 days earlier over a $5 piece of paper. "For God's sake, Mom, what is this garbage?" Leo's voice, my son's voice, had sliced through the morning quiet. He loomed over me at the kitchen table, his shadow falling across my cup of tea. He held up the lottery ticket between his thumb and forefinger as if it were something rotted. His wife, Sabrina, was a silent, lethal presence by the sink. She polished a wine glass, her movements slow and deliberate. Her reflection in the glass a distorted mask of contempt. She didn't need to speak. Her silence was a weapon she had honed to a razor's edge. Her judgment was in the purse of her lips, the slight, dismissive tilt of her head. I looked from his furious face to the ticket. It was a simple scratch-off, a small ritual I'd adopted after my husband Frank passed. He'd worked his life away in the steel mills that once lined the Cuyahoga River, and when he was gone, the silence in our small apartment was deafening. The scratch-offs were a whisper of hope in that silence, a $5 daydream. It wasn't about winning, it was about the possibility, the brief, thrilling hum of what if. "It was my own money, Leo," I said, my voice barely a rustle of leaves. "From the cookie jar." "The cookie jar?" He laughed, a harsh, ugly sound that didn't suit the boy I remembered. "That's for groceries. That's our money. You don't have an income, Mom. We pay for everything. We let you live here for free. Don't you forget that." Free. The word landed like a physical blow. It was meant to. It was designed to erase the years I'd worked double shifts at the diner after Frank's accident, the life insurance policy I'd handed over to them for the down payment on this very house, the countless hours I'd spent being a grandmother so Sabrina could pursue her online influencing career. All of it, erased by that one cruel word. "It's not the $5, he seethed, his face reddening. "It's the principle, the sheer foolishness. You're 72 years old, acting like a child. Grow up." Sabrina finally spoke, her voice a syrupy poison. "We just think it's a bit undignified, Clara. People talk." I felt myself shrink in the chair, my world narrowing to the floral pattern on the vinyl tablecloth. I wanted to explain that the man at the corner store, Marco, knew my name because of those tickets. That in a life where I was becoming increasingly invisible, his cheerful, "the usual Mrs. T," was a small anchor, but the words wouldn't come. They were trapped behind a wall of shame they had so expertly built. I carefully folded the ticket, the one they found so offensive, and slipped it into the pocket of my cardigan. I hadn't even scratched it yet. "Don't say we didn't warn you," Leo muttered, turning his back on me. Sabrina followed, a shadow at his heels. I sat there for a long time, the silence they left behind heavier than any noise. The kitchen, once my domain of comfort and care, felt alien. I looked at the little pencil marks on the doorframe where I'd charted Leo's height, at the faint scratch on the floor where he'd crashed his first tricycle. This house was a museum of a love they had forgotten, and I was just an exhibit they were tired of dusting. Later that morning, I sat on the porch swing, needing to breathe air that wasn't thick with their resentment. I pulled the ticket from my pocket. It was a Buckeye Bonanza game, promising a grand prize of $17 million. At the bottom, in tiny print, were the words, "Sign here to validate." As always, I had my name, Clara May Thompson, was written on the back in shaky but clear blue ink, dated that very morning. My hands trembled as I took a quarter from my purse. The familiar rasp of metal on paper was a small act of defiance. I scratched off the latex coating, my heart a nervous drum against my ribs. A number 14, a 28, a 3. I kept scratching, my breath held tight in my chest. And then I saw them. The symbols aligned. The numbers matched. Under the prize box, a figure that made my vision blur. $17,000. I didn't gasp. I didn't shout. A profound, crystalline stillness settled over me. I stared at the ticket, not in disbelief, but in absolute terrifying certainty. I folded it with the reverence of a prayer and tucked it into a zippered compartment deep inside my purse. In that moment, on the porch of the home where I was no longer welcome, I felt a power I hadn't felt in decades. It wasn't the money. It was the knowledge. They thought they held all the cards, but they never even bothered to look at the name on the back. They toasted their own superiority, but I held the truth. And for the first time in a very long time, I knew exactly what I was going to do with it. The following day, I said nothing. I moved through the house like a phantom, my secret tucked away like a hidden heart. I tidied the kitchen, weeded the small garden Sabrina ignored, and offered a polite, hollow smile when they passed me in the hall. The winning ticket was a warm weight in my purse, a promise only I understood. It was while sorting their laundry that a cold dread began to seep into my calm. I kept a small wicker basket in the laundry room for miscellaneous items found in pockets, loose change, receipts, and often my losing lottery tickets. I'd save them for second-chance drawings, a habit of thriftiness they found pathetic. I remembered tossing a different ticket in there yesterday, a losing one. On a whim, I reached in to retrieve it. My fingers brushed against the bottom of the basket. It was empty. My first thought was that I'd thrown it out. I checked the trash can, sifting through coffee grounds and junk mail. Nothing. I looked under the washing machine, behind the detergent. The ticket was gone. A quiet, sickening suspicion began to bloom in my stomach. It was just a losing ticket, worthless, but its absence felt like a violation, a quiet trespass. That night, the sound of their celebration echoed from behind their closed bedroom door. Giggles, the distinct pop of a champagne cork, the clinking of glasses. The next morning, a delivery truck idled in the driveway. A massive 80-inch television was wheeled into the house. Sabrina signed for it in a silk robe, a queen accepting tribute. The day continued with a parade of deliveries, cases of expensive wine, a designer coat I knew cost more than my entire monthly Social Security check, boxes from high-end electronics stores. They never mentioned a lottery win to me. They didn't have to. They just lived it, loudly and lavishly, in front of the woman they had shamed for a $5 piece of paper. I sat in my armchair, the needles in my hand clicking a frantic, uneven rhythm, my knitting a tangled mess of my anxiety. I wanted to be wrong. I prayed I was wrong. Maybe they'd come into some money of their own, a bonus, an inheritance. But I knew. The confirmation came when Sabrina left her phone on the kitchen counter. The screen lit up with a text from her sister. The message was a dagger. OMG, Sab, $17 million. Are you seriously not telling the old bat? I froze, my hand hovering over the dish towel. The old bat. That's what I was to them. Not a mother, not a grandmother, just an obstacle. They had found the ticket, the losing one, I realized with a jolt. They must have found it, assumed it was the winner, and somehow managed to cash it. But how? My mind raced, trying to piece together their deceit. They hadn't found the real ticket. The signed $17 million ticket was still safe in my purse. So what had they found? What were they celebrating? My confusion was a thick fog. But the betrayal was as clear as glass. They believed they had won, and their first act was to indulge themselves while I remained invisible, a servant in their suddenly gilded home. 2 days later, my key no longer fit the front door lock. I knocked, my confusion turning to a cold, hard knot of fear. Leo opened the door just a crack. He couldn't meet my eyes. "Mom," he began, his voice low and rehearsed. We need some space. With all the changes, it's just getting crowded." "My things are inside," I stated, my own voice sounding distant. "We packed them for you," Sabrina's voice called from the depths of the house. "They're on the porch." And there they were, the suitcases, the canvas bag, the empty wicker basket sitting on top like a final insult. I didn't plead. I didn't scream. The fight had drained out of me, replaced by a chilling clarity. I picked up my bags and walked to the curb as the deadbolt clicked shut behind me. They didn't offer me a ride. They didn't offer me $1. They just offered me a closed door and the muffled sound of a party I was no longer invited to. They celebrated their supposed luck, but their carelessness was my salvation. They had been so consumed by their own greed, so blinded by the number on a ticket they thought was theirs, that they never imagined I might have the real one. The West Park branch of the Cleveland Public Library smelled of old paper and quiet dignity. It was warm, and it was free. For now, that was enough. I had walked the 12 blocks from the house, my life condensed into 2 suitcases that felt heavier with every step. I found an empty carrel near a window overlooking the rain-slicked street, plugged my ancient flip phone into a power outlet, and tried to stop shaking. I had the truth, but the truth felt fragile against the weight of their cruelty. I needed proof. I opened my phone's photo gallery, scrolling past blurry pictures of my granddaughter Isabel and the rose bushes I'd tended. And then I found it. A photo I'd taken at the corner store 3 days ago, a habit born from a vague sense of self-preservation. It was a clear shot of the winning Buckeye Bonanza ticket, flat on the counter before I scratched it. I zoomed in. The serial numbers were visible. And on the back, my signature, Clara Mae Thompson, was undeniable. My breath hitched. They hadn't stolen the winning ticket. They must have found a different one, maybe a discarded dud from the week before, and in their feverish greed, they saw what they wanted to see. They had built their castle of new electronics and champagne on a foundation of wishful thinking and my supposed foolishness. But the real ticket, the signed, legally binding document, was in my purse. A new kind of resolve hardened within me. A confrontation would be useless, a storm of their denials and gaslighting. I needed a different weapon. I opened the library's browser and searched for the Ohio Lottery Commission. I found a number for disputed claims. The woman who answered had a calm, steady voice that felt like an anchor. I explained the situation, my voice trembling at first, then gaining strength as I laid out the facts. I had the original signed winning ticket. I had a time-stamped photo of it pre-scratch from the point of purchase. "Ma'am," the woman said after a thoughtful pause, "if your name is on that ticket and you have proof of purchase, the ticket is yours. It doesn't matter who else thinks they won. The signature is the legal determinant." Tears I hadn't allowed myself to cry now streamed down my face. They weren't tears of sadness, but of overwhelming relief. "So it's not too late." "Not at all," she assured me. "We'll open an official inquiry. Do not lose that ticket or that photograph." After the call, I walked back to the corner store. Marco, the young cashier, was behind the counter. "Hey, Mrs. T," he said, smiling. "The usual?" "Not today, Marco," I said, my own smile feeling less fragile. "I need a favor. Can you pull the security footage from 3 days ago?" "Around 10 a.m. I just need a still shot of me buying a ticket." He looked at me, his brow furrowed with concern. "Everything okay?" "Not really," I admitted, "but I'm fixing it." He made a call, and minutes later, he handed me a printed image. It was me, standing at the counter, holding out a $5 bill. I looked tired, worn, but undeniably there. I was a person, a customer, the rightful owner. With the ticket, the phone photo, and the security still, I had an irrefutable trinity of truth. That evening, in the quiet hum of the library, I emailed it all to the Lottery Commission. The response came within an hour. Claim received. Preliminary evidence verified. Please await formal review. The ticket has been flagged in our system. I stared at the words legally yours. I had no home, no family, and less than $100 to my name, but I had the truth. And now, so did the state of Ohio. The official email arrived 48 hours later. Dear Ms. Thompson, your identity as the purchaser and signatory of winning ticket for 78B451902 has been verified. You are the rightful claimant of the $17 million prize. Please contact our Columbus office to begin the secure transfer process. Options for anonymity are available. Rightful claimant. I chose the Senior Privacy Clause, a measure designed to protect elderly winners from fraud and exploitation, often from their own families. The irony was not lost on me. Meanwhile, across town, their fantasy was beginning to crumble. My phone, which I'd kept on silent, began to vibrate incessantly. 6 missed calls from Sabrina, 10 from Leo. Then the texts started, a frantic cascade of panic and lies. Mom, where are you? We were worried. Okay, we found a ticket. We thought it was the big one. It was a mistake. Let's just talk about this. The lottery office said there's a conflicting claim. What did you do? Mom, answer me. Let's just split it. 50-50. That's more than fair. This can be good for all of us. I pictured them at the lottery office, puffed up with arrogance, ready for their press conference, only to be told that the prize had already been claimed by its legal owner. I imagined Sabrina's mask of charm cracking, Leo's face contorting in impotent rage. They had rehearsed their acceptance speech, but had never considered the possibility of defeat. A long, rambling voicemail from Sabrina followed. Her voice was thick with false sweetness. Clara, I know we've had our issues, but think of Isabel. Think of family. This money doesn't have to tear us apart. It can be a bridge. A bridge. They had burned the entire village to the ground and now wanted to borrow a cup of sugar. I powered the phone off. I let them sit in the silence they had so callously imposed on me. The money was mine. The power was mine. But most importantly, the truth was mine. And I had no intention of ever setting foot on their side of that burned bridge again. Their next move was as predictable as it was vile. When quiet manipulation failed, they turned to public demolition. A librarian, Miss Albright, who had taken a quiet interest in my plight, gently showed me her phone. Clara, I think you need to see this. It was Sabrina's Facebook page. Her profile picture was a professionally lit portrait, head tilted, a serene smile plastered on her face. The post beneath it was a masterpiece of calculated victimhood. Heartbroken. Sometimes the people you love most betray you in the cruelest ways. My husband's mother, Clara, who we took into our home, stole our winning lottery ticket right out of my purse. We believe her age has made her confused and greedy. We only ever wanted to provide for our daughter's future. Please pray for our family. The post was accompanied by a photo of them on their porch, clutching Isabel between them, their faces arranged in masks of solemn grief. It was decorated with hashtags: elder abuse, hashtag family betrayal, theft, hashtag justice for Izzy. The comments flooded in, a torrent of poison aimed at me. Disgusting! How could a mother do that? Take her to court. She's clearly senile. That poor little girl. Her grandmother stole her future. I stared at the screen, my hands cold. They were trying to destroy my name, my reputation, the one thing I had left. They assumed I would crumble, that I would hide in shame. They had forgotten one crucial detail. I had kept everything. With Ms. Albright's help, I sat down at a library computer. My fingers, usually clumsy with technology, moved with a steady purpose. I began to build my case, not for a courtroom, but for the court of public opinion they had so arrogantly convened. First, the photo of the ticket, my signature clear and bold. Second, the security camera still of me at the counter purchasing it. Third, a bank statement showing the $5 withdrawal. Fourth, I scrolled through months of old texts until I found one from Sabrina, sent after I'd accidentally broken a plate. "I am so sick of you being a useless freeloader in my house." I took a screenshot. The final piece was the official letter from the Ohio Lottery Commission, a PDF document stating unequivocally that Clara Mae Thompson was the sole, verified winner. I compiled it all into a single file. My own caption was simple and direct. "To whom it may concern, a false narrative is being spread about me. Here is the documented truth. I did not want to make this public, but I will not allow my name to be slandered. The truth has receipts." I sent the entire package to Nora Vance, an investigative journalist for a Cleveland online publication who specialized in stories of family fraud and elder exploitation. I had read her work. She was fearless and meticulous. Then I went back to the small room I was renting from a retired teacher, made a cup of tea, and waited. Nora Vance's article went live that night. The headline was stark. "She was called a thief by her son. The receipts tell a different story." The article laid out the evidence, piece by damning piece, the screenshots, the official letter, the security still. It was methodical, irrefutable, and devastating. Within hours, the tide turned. The hashtags on Sabrina's post began to fill with new comments. "Wait, so you tried to steal it from her? Wad justice for Clara. This is shameful. Wow. You kicked out your own mother and then lied about it. The receipts don't lie." Someone dug up an old comment thread where Sabrina had mocked my knitting, calling it a sad pioneer woman hobby. It was reposted everywhere. The public judgment they had sicked on me turned and devoured them whole. The consequences were swift and brutal. The elite private school Isabel attended had a strict parent code of conduct. Sabrina was quietly asked to resign from her position on the fundraising committee. Neighbors, the Hamiltons, who had once been close friends, suddenly stopped waving. The neighborhood Facebook group became a minefield of pointedly shared links to Nora's article. The final blow landed on Leo. He worked in public relations, a career built on the flimsy scaffolding of perception and reputation. His firm, facing a PR nightmare of its own, issued a public statement. "Our company is committed to the values of integrity and family. The recent information that has come to light regarding the personal conduct of Leo Thompson is in direct conflict with these values. As of today, he is no longer employed with our firm." Within a week, a for sale sign appeared in their yard. Within 2, it was stamped with a red "sold" banner. They deleted their social media accounts, changed their numbers, and vanished. The last I heard of them was a single, unsigned note left in my new mailbox. One sentence was scrawled on it. "You win. We're leaving Ohio." I folded the note and placed it in the same envelope as the lottery ticket. It wasn't a trophy. It was a period at the end of a long, painful sentence. It wasn't joy I felt, but a profound, quiet peace. The storm had passed. The house I bought was a small brick bungalow in a quiet, leafy suburb. It had a porch swing, a garden bed ready for tulips, and a stillness I could breathe. It was mine, paid in full. No one could lock me out of it. On the wall above my favorite armchair, I hung a single framed photo, the security still from Marco's store. In it, I am just a woman buying a lottery ticket, but in my eyes, there's a flicker of something that had been dormant for too long. Hope. Beneath it, I mounted a small hand-carved piece of wood with 4 words burned into it. I cached the truth. Before I left Cleveland, I stopped at the library. I handed Ms. Albright a check. For the library, I said. For new books, or fixing the heat, for being a safe harbor. She hugged me, a genuine warmth that asked for nothing in return. I never looked back. I had no desire to know where they went. That chapter was closed. My healing didn't need their apology. It didn't need their remorse. It just needed peace. One day, a letter arrived, the handwriting unmistakably Leo's. It was a rambling, self-pitying plea for a second chance, for a connection. If not for me, then for Izzy. There was a time that letter would have broken my heart. I would have folded it, cried over it, and allowed myself to hope. But I was not that woman anymore. I took out a simple note card with a sunflower on the front and wrote one line. Forgiveness is something you must find for yourselves. My peace is no longer yours to borrow. I mailed it without a return address. That evening, I sat on my porch, sipping tea infused with mint from my own window box. The sun set, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to win. Revenge is loud, but dignity is quiet. It's the house you build for yourself after they burn the old one down. It's the garden you plant when they leave you with scorched earth. It is the profound, unshakable knowledge that your worth is not determined by the people who fail to see it. It is, and always was, inherent. And in the warm, gentle quiet of my own life, that was, at long last, enough.